To talk about around the NHL, and we're going to start today with the name game in Utah here on the latest on the fourth period, presented by CCM Hockey. Okay, Dave Pagnotta, the insider of all insiders. What
Mm,
name do you think we are going to end up with in Utah? Because the fan vote is on and it's down to the Mammoth, the Outlaws, and just Hockey Club. Give us the pulse check. What do you think?
whatever they're called, they want to add. I like Outlaws. I was a fan of Outlaws from the get go. I'm glad they re-entered the final mix, so that's where my vote lies. But are you a Mammoth or Outlaws or Hockey Club person?
No, I think they've done such a great job with the color scheme and the design. It's crisp, it's edgy. I'm a hockey club gal. I am
Okay,
old school, classic, simple, nothing crazy. But you did mention they're looking to add,
yeah,
and it's not just in the name category. Bum bum segue. But hey,
nice.
you know what? They're looking to add, and the one thing that's different here for Utah is they've been backed by great ownership from the very beginning. And they have, Ryan and Ashley Smith have said, we want to make the playoffs and we want to make the playoffs as fast as we can. So I think the question right now isn't whether they're going to spend and make some big splashes because we expect that, but are they going to do it before the trade deadline? Or are we looking at sort of around the draft or in the summer? And I know you got into this a little bit on the fourth period in your latest column as well.
Yeah, they're going to look at everything. They're going to look to see if they can make significant adjustments and, excuse me, additions now. And if it doesn't work out, it'll lay groundwork for potential moves in the summer and around the draft before going into free agency. They've got a lot of money to burn. As you mentioned, ownership willing to spend it. They want to make the playoffs. Looks like it's probably out of reach this season. But everything that Bill Armstrong, their GM, is doing now is towards next season and being competitive then. They will be big players in the free agent market. They've got money. They want to spend it, as I said. So whether it's a Rantanen or Marner, they're going to go after both of these guys and try to get one of them if they hit the open market July 1. At least that's my read on the situation. And then they'll go from there in terms of other tiers and other guys that are going to become available. But Utah wants to add to their roster and push for the playoffs next season. It's been, we were there for the opener. We were there for the first game of the season. Fantastic market. Fan base has fully embraced it. They're itching for some playoff hockey. They're going to try to give it to them next season.
Yeah, and even this season, I mean, they're 6 points back as of
Yeah.
today of that wild card spot. Of course, last night, Dylan Gunther, the overtime hero after missing 12 games. And you said it, the atmosphere is incredible. And there was, always concern with a new team for the appetite, but I think they've proved that there is an appetite in Salt Lake City for hockey and that it's not just a short term thing. These fans are on board and they're very excited, which is so cool. Okay, shifting over to Tampa, a little bit of a different situation. GM Julian Brisebois hinting that they might be patient, although they are looking for a defenseman. So, do you think that that's where they end up? Are they going to stay patient and just wait it out, or you think that they're starting to get an itch to make a move here? And if so, it just a defenseman? Could it be something else?
I think they're going to look at both areas. They were in on Brandon Saad. He was a player when he became a free agent after being or having his contract terminated in St. Louis before joining Vegas. Tampa was right there, and they were given serious consideration to add. I think they want to bring in that caliber player up front. If they can bring in somebody in the mid six to help with their offense a little bit, or at least spread out their depth, that's I think what they would like to do. In addition to adding someone on the blue line, so they're looking at both. They have cap space to play with a little bit anyway, and they're going to try to utilize that to their advantage. So yes, Brisebois looking. He's not going to pounce on anything now just for the sake of doing it, which I think was the primary messaging towards him being patient. He wants to see how this club continues to perform. But if he could find someone on the back end and in their mid six, likely in the third line kind of role, I think that's their preference in Tampa.
Well, another team we've talked about quite a bit on the latest is Toronto. No secret, they're looking to add up front. Ideally, that's the center position. But there hasn't been much action in a little while in terms of, hearing that chatter. Do you think there has been some behind the scenes, or are they just kind of lurking and watching it all unfold and then waiting to pounce on a big move?
It's both. Brad Treliving has been out there. He has been searching. Him and the staff have been looking around to see what could be available and what is available. And then they're also lurking. They're kind of in the weeds a little bit, trying to see if an opportunity pops up that they can pounce on they'd like to take it. It's no secret, as you mentioned, they want to upgrade their center position. If it's 2C, they move John Tavares to the left. There's also talk if things really don't work out, if they could find a left wing scorer, they could add and keep 91 at the dot. But the primary preference is center, and they're also looking at the 3C to upgrade their third line. But it sounds like the priority is at the 2C position, or at least at the very least, the second line in general. So Toronto is looking; they are trying to see where they can make an addition. Scott Lawton still kind of part of the conversation from a third line role. But the asking price is still high. So we'll see. I don't know if Toronto wants to give up any of their top prospects in order to make that happen. So we'll see kind of where that goes. But Toronto's looking, and they want to make something happen before the deadline.
All right, last, let's touch on Anaheim a little bit here. We added Trevor Zegras to our trade watch list on the fourth period, and since then, seems like the action has picked up a little bit. Do you think that Anaheim is looking to make something work with Zegras, or is it a priority to move him at this point?
They're still listening on Trevor Zegras. When we added him to the 2.0 list a couple of weeks ago, he's still on there now on the new one. We started to hear, as you mentioned, more of Zegras' name kind of out there. They haven't shied away from taking calls on Trevor Zegras. He has another year left on his contract at $5.25 million. Then he'll become a restricted free agent. He's only 23. But he hasn't had the type of season they anticipated. Still battled some injuries. It's funny. He played 31 games last season before being shut down. He had 6 goals, 9 assists, and 15 points. He's played 31 games this season, exact same numbers. They wanted to see an incline in his offensive production because it would help the trade talks in trying to move him out. They'd like to address the blue line. That could be an area where they swap out forward for defensemen. We'll see where that goes, but he is available. They don't want to give up on him. They still value him highly. And if it doesn't happen now, we could see something happen in the summer. But those talks, those are still possible now as Anaheim continues to listen.
All right. Well, at this point, we're shifting some of our attention towards Four Nations, which kicks off next week. But as you mentioned the other day, there is no roster freeze. So the
Yep.
action presumably won't slow down through that period, could even pick up. So we'll keep an eye on that. Dave, as always, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for watching the latest here on the fourth period, presented by CCM Hockey.